The scent of his cologne still hung in the air, the same one he wore on our wedding day. Why did the man who once couldn't keep his hands off me now flinch at my touch? The cold silk of my nightgown felt like a mockery against my skin, a costume for an intimacy that didn't exist. Standing in the dim light, watching the rigid line of his back, I felt the fairy tale crumble into silent, aching confusion. My body is my choice. You can't demand anything from me. Ryan's voice was ice. He turned away from me in our bedroom. His words hit like a physical blow. I stood there, frozen, wearing the silk nightgown I bought for our 6-week anniversary. 6 weeks. That's how long we'd been married. 6 weeks without a single touch. My name is Chloe Bennett. I'm 27. I truly thought I had my fairy tale. Ryan Fletcher proposed last spring in Seattle. The ceremony was perfect. It was at the Willow Creek Country Club. Our friends and family cheered. They believed it was the start of a happy ever after. But that night, watching his rigid back as he stared at his phone, I knew something was terribly wrong. "Ryan, we're married," I whispered. "I'm your wife. I just want to understand. Why won't you even hold my hand?" he snapped. He finally turned to face me. His green eyes, once so warm, now held only annoyance. "I told you, my body belongs to me. Marriage isn't ownership. You need to respect my boundaries." That word, boundaries, it felt like a slap. For 8 months he was so different. Affectionate, romantic. He'd pull me close during movies, kiss me goodnight, hold my hand as we walked through the park. But the moment we got back from Aspen, everything changed. Our honeymoon, where he claimed exhaustion every single night. A switch flipped. The man I married became a complete stranger. He flinched if I came near him. "This isn't normal," I said, my voice stronger now. "Married couples are intimate. They share a bed. They touch. It's normal?" Ryan laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. My body felt numb. His words were ice. My coffee grew cold as he moved through our kitchen. Every motion, perfect, precise. Check phone, step outside for a call. It was a dance of avoidance. "I'm visiting my sister in Phoenix this weekend." He barely flinched. "Sounds nice." "Will you miss me?" I asked. He shrugged. "I'll manage." That casual dismissal, it stung. This man who once hated even one day apart now seemed relieved I was leaving. Something was terribly wrong. I watched him scroll through his phone, his handsome face a mask. Those green eyes that once sparkled for me were now just cold. My suspicion hardened into a terrifying certainty. He was hiding something, and I was going to find it. The click of the study lock giving way was louder than a gunshot. My heart hammered against my ribs. The air inside was sterile, smelling of lemon polish and something else. Something clinical. His sanctuary was a tomb of perfect order, and on the desk, a single black binder. My hands trembled as I flipped it open. A stark, official letter. The words screamed at me. Diagnosis, prognosis, contagion risk. The room spun. The cold scent, the rigid boundaries. His flinch at my touch. It wasn't rejection. It was a fortress. A desperate, heartbreaking act of protection. He wasn't pushing me away. He thought he was saving me. He worked as a financial consultant, or so he claimed, though I had never met any of his colleagues or clients. When I asked about his work, he would give vague answers about confidentiality and client privacy. "Trevor," I said carefully, "I was thinking we should see a marriage counselor. This distance between us, it's not healthy." His head snapped up, and for a moment I saw something flash in his eyes. Panic, maybe, or fear. But it was gone so quickly I wondered if I had imagined it. "We don't need counseling," he said firmly. "We just need time to adjust to married life. Not everyone falls into perfect rhythm immediately. It's been 6 weeks," I reminded him. "6 weeks is nothing in the scope of a lifetime together," he replied, but his voice sounded rehearsed as if he had practiced this response. That afternoon, after Trevor left for what he claimed was a client meeting, I did something I had never imagined myself doing. I searched through his things, not out of jealousy, but out of a growing conviction that the man I married was keeping secrets from me. His home office was meticulously organized, almost suspiciously so. His desk drawers contained only basic office supplies. His filing cabinet held generic financial documents, and his computer was password protected. But as I was about to give up, I noticed something odd. In the trash can, partially hidden beneath other papers, was a receipt from a flower shop in Las Vegas. The date was from 3 weeks ago when Trevor claimed to be at a financial conference in Salt Lake City. The receipt was for a dozen red roses, and written on the back in Trevor's handwriting was a phone number with a Nevada area code. My hands trembled as I photographed the receipt with my phone. Whatever Trevor was hiding, I was going to find out. The man I married was living a lie, and I deserved to know the truth. That evening, I sat in my car outside the office building where Trevor claimed to work, watching through the lobby windows. I followed him again the next afternoon. My stomach was a tight knot. The rain had stopped, leaving the scent of wet pavement and a cold dread in the air. He went straight to the same coffee shop. The hiss of the espresso machine was the only sound I could focus on. He was at his corner table. He looked peaceful. It was a look I hadn't seen in weeks. He packed his laptop into his bag. He was leaving. My heart sank. Another dead end. Then, a woman approached his table. She was beautiful, with a warm, easy smile. She didn't hesitate. She leaned down, and she kissed him. It wasn't a fleeting peck. It was a deep, intimate kiss, and he didn't pull away. He melted into it. His rigid posture, the cold wall he built around himself, it dissolved completely. His shoulders relaxed. His hand came up to cradle her face. This was a different man. My breath caught in my throat. This wasn't an affair. This was the real Ryan, the cold man at home. He was the imposter, a meticulously constructed performance for my benefit alone. The coffee shop's warm, aromatic air suddenly felt thick and suffocating. I drove home in a blur. The city lights were smeared streaks against the wet windows. The truth was a physical weight on my chest. He came home an hour later, his mask perfectly back in place. His smile was tight. His eyes were distant. "Rough day at the office?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He just nodded, already walking toward the kitchen. "The usual. You know how it is." I did not know. I did not know him at all. I stood in the living room, listening to the hum of the refrigerator. The silence between us was a living thing. He was living a complete double life, and I was just a set piece in his elaborate play. Why marry me? What was this situation he wanted to be over? The next message from Amanda was the final piece. It illuminated his cruel, meticulous design. Her message glowed on his phone screen. "Missing you, baby. Can't wait to see you this weekend. This whole situation is almost over." The situation. That was me. Our marriage. My entire life was just a problem he was managing. A temporary arrangement he was patiently waiting to conclude. He wasn't struggling with intimacy. He was conserving it, saving every bit of his real self for her. I was the other woman in my own marriage, the unwitting pawn, the lie he came home to. The weight of his deception was absolute. He hadn't just lied about his job or his location. He had lied about his entire heart. The shower was still running. My hands trembled as I forwarded the photos and messages to my own phone. The evidence of his double life was right there. When Ryan emerged, humming softly in a towel, I pretended to read a magazine. He seemed so happy. Now I knew why. "I'll turn in early," I said, my voice flat. "Good idea," he replied, his relief a fresh wound. I lay in the dark, listening to his breathing. My decision was made. I would find out exactly who I had married. The next morning, my heart hammered against my ribs. I dialed the number. A crisp, professional voice answered. "Law offices of Patricia Henley." I took a sharp breath, about to speak when a shadow fell over me. "Who are you calling, Chloe?" His voice was pure ice. The line hung open, the silence screaming between us. What could I possibly say? Patricia Henley's office was on the 15th floor of a Seattle high-rise. The view of the Puget Sound was stunning, but I couldn't see it. I sat across from her mahogany desk, my phone heavy in my hand. I shared the evidence. Her expression shifted from professional curiosity to deep concern. "Chloe," she said, her voice grave, "this suggests potential bigamy. This isn't just a divorce. This could be criminal." The word bigamy was a physical blow. An affair, I expected. But this? "That's impossible," I whispered. "We have a certificate. We were married at Willow Creek Country Club. There were hundreds of witnesses." Patricia just nodded, her face grim. My entire reality was unraveling. "Your marriage is legally valid on your end, Chloe. That's what makes Ryan's situation so dangerous. If he's already married to someone else, that's bigamy. A felony here in Washington. It carries up to 6 years in prison." Patricia Henley reached for her phone. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were urgent. "I'm recommending we hire a private investigator. Now. We need to confirm if this Amanda is truly his wife. If their marriage came first, yours is void, and Ryan has committed a serious crime." Hours later, I sat across from Detective Michael Torres, a former cop, now a PI who specialized in marriage fraud. His office smelled of old coffee and rain. He had sharp eyes and a direct manner that somehow made me feel safe. I've seen this before. The pattern is always the same. He finds a wealthy target, courts them fast, rushes into marriage, then he works to access their money before he vanishes. The lack of intimacy. That's a classic red flag. It makes the exit cleaner. But when we were dating, he was so romantic, so attentive. He seemed to really care. Detective Torres looked at me, his expression softening with something like pity. "These people are master manipulators, Chloe. They study you. They learn your wants, your fears. They become exactly who you need them to be." He slid a contract across the desk. "I need you to understand. What we find could be devastating. Are you prepared for the possibility that your entire relationship was a lie?" I thought of the cold silence in our bed, the hushed phone calls, the stranger who wore my husband's face. Whatever the truth was, it had to be better than this agony of not knowing. Detective Torres's pen stopped mid-sentence. He looked up from his notepad, his sharp eyes locking onto mine. "The pattern is the same, but there's one detail that doesn't fit." He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a grave whisper. "Chloe, you said his name is Ryan Fletcher?" The air went cold. I knew a Ryan Fletcher. His case was different. His first wife didn't just disappear. She vanished. The device felt like a brick in my purse. A secret. My secret. I had to know. Whatever it takes. Back in our pristine Seattle kitchen, the air felt thick with lies. I watched Ryan. He cut his salmon with a strange mechanical precision. Every movement was rigid, calculated. A performance. The sunset through the window caught his left hand, a pale, sharp line of skin on his ring finger, a perfect tan line. My breath hitched. My heart just stopped. That mark! From a wedding band he never, ever wore with me. The fork clattered from my numb fingers. This man is not Ryan. He excused himself for a phone call. His voice a tender murmur from his office, a voice I hadn't heard in months. I fumbled for the recorder, my hands shaking, and pressed record. I hovered by the door. "I know, baby. I miss you too." His words were a physical wound. "This whole thing is more complicated than I expected, but I promise it'll be over soon." A cold dread washed over me. Who was he talking to? No, she doesn't suspect anything. The cold certainty in his tone was worse than any shout. She's actually making it easier by pulling away herself. The silence after felt heavier than any noise. I was just a complication in my own life, a problem he was managing, and I had it all on tape. My heart raced as I pressed my ear against the door, a silent witness to a betrayal playing out just inches away. Trevor's voice, normally so cold, now dripped with warmth, soft and intimate, like a jigsaw piece clicking into place. I think she's planning to file for divorce, which would solve all our problems. My world tilted. Did he really see me as a mere transaction? Each word felt like a punch to the gut. The casual cruelty in his tone made my stomach churn. He was discussing me, his wife, as if I were nothing more than a liability. The prenup was a stroke of genius, he continued with chilling confidence. She was so in love, she barely read it. I remembered signing that document, trepidation crawling down my spine. The clauses slipped into my mind like venom, promising riches to him while stripping me of my future. I grasped the doorframe, a lifeline in a sea of confusion. I was being robbed blind, manipulated into signing away everything I held dear. And then he whispered those words that shattered any lingering hope. I love you too, Amanda. Amanda, another woman tucked securely in the folds of his life, while I was left pining for a scrap of intimacy. He became everything to her that he refused to be to me. Attentive, affectionate, interested. My heart ached as I listened to the laughter erupt through the phone. As Trevor wrapped up the call, I found my way back to the living room, breathless. I switched off the recorder, the implications crashing down around me. He hadn't just betrayed me emotionally. He'd built an entire life on deceit, stealing not just love, but my inheritance too. The next morning, Trevor was at work. A facade I now realized was as false as the ring he wore, but didn't. It all made sense now. Detective Torres's call delivered good news and bad news. "I have something for you," he said, dragging me back into the heart of the emotional turmoil. What had Trevor concealed? Would this be the ending I wasn't ready for? What lay beneath those loving whispers to Amanda? The bad news is that Ryan Fletcher married Amanda Wilson in Las Vegas 8 months ago, 2 months before he proposed to you. Their marriage is fully legal and documented. My worst fears were confirmed, but Detective Torres continued. The grainy surveillance photo felt like a physical blow. Amanda Wilson was actually Amanda Caldwell, his sister. The intimate phone calls I'd overheard, the whispered, "I love yous." It was all a sick, twisted performance. My stomach turned. Detective Torres's voice was low, serious. They've been running this scheme for years. A team. Patricia placed a hand on my arm. Her touch was the only solid thing in a world that was spinning. "Chloe, we have enough. Federal charges for wire fraud, bigamy, identity theft. We can destroy them." But I needed to be the one to end it. This was my life they had invaded. My trust they had poisoned. I had to see his face when the trap slammed shut. Later that night, rain whispered against the window pane. The scent of it, clean and cold, filled the dark bedroom. I was alone. Ryan was... where? With her? My phone glowed. I opened my banking app, but it was a different one. The username was a slight variation of my own name. My heart hammered against my ribs. What was this? The balance loaded. It glowed on my tear-streaked face. 842 says $500. A notification popped up. Funds transfer initiated. And then, a quiet click. The bedroom door handle behind me began to silently turn. Amanda will be charged as an accomplice, but we need to catch them in the act of actually accessing your funds. How do we do that? Detective Torres smiled grimly. We give them what they want. You're going to file for divorce just as Trevor hopes, but instead of using his prenup to rob you, we're going to use it to trap him. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. I would file for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences, playing the role of the heartbroken wife who just wanted out of the marriage. Trevor would feel confident that his plan was working and would move quickly to access the financial accounts he had set up. Federal agents would be waiting for him. "Are you ready for this?" Patricia asked. "Once we set this in motion, there's no going back. Trevor will be arrested, and the truth about your marriage will become public record." I thought about the past 2 months of confusion and rejection, about the elaborate lies and manipulation, about the trust fund my grandmother had left me being used as bait in a criminal scheme. "I'm ready," I said. "Let's end this charade once and for all." The Denver County Courthouse was bustling with activity on the morning I filed for divorce, but I felt strangely calm as I walked up the steps with Patricia beside me. Detective Torres had positioned himself across the street, ready to alert the federal agents once Trevor took the bait. I had served Trevor with divorce papers the night before, playing the part of the devastated wife who couldn't handle the distance in our marriage any longer. His reaction had been perfect. Surprise, hurt, and then resigned acceptance that made my skin crawl with its falseness. "I'm sorry it's come to this," he had said, pulling me into what I now recognized as a calculated embrace. "I know I haven't been the husband you deserved. Maybe some time apart will help us both figure out what we really want." The recording device in my pocket had captured every lying word. The paperwork was filed. My marriage, a complete sham, was officially ending. My phone buzzed. A text from Detective Torres. "He's moving. Just entered the bank." My heart hammered against my ribs. Ryan thought he had won. He thought he was about to steal my inheritance and vanish. Another buzz. "Package delivered. Both in custody. You can go home, Chloe. It's over." I finally exhaled. The air felt clean for the first time in months. 2 weeks later, I sat in the federal courtroom. The scent of old wood and antiseptic filled the air. Ryan was led in. Orange jumpsuit, shackles. His arrogant composure was gone. His face was pale. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. The prosecutor's voice was cold, clear. "The defendants are charged with conspiracy to commit wire fraud, identity theft, and bigamy." His words echoed. Bigamy. Ryan's eyes scanned the room. They found me, and he knew. I saw the shock. Then the pure panic. I watched the local news that night. There he was, head down, being led from the courthouse. The camera zoomed in on his handcuffed hands, and I saw it. A small, faded scar on his wrist. My breath caught. It was identical to the one in the photo of the young boy. The childhood leukemia survivor from the donor file I'd found. It wasn't about control. It was about survival. A desperate, hidden fear of germs from a compromised immune system. A secret buried in shame. The cold distance. The rigid boundaries. They weren't a rejection of me. They were a prison he built for himself. And I never knew. As the sun dipped below the horizon, a golden light spilled into the room. Chloe Bennett stood at the threshold of their bedroom, the air heavy with the scent of Ryan's cologne, a bittersweet reminder of the intimacy that once was. Her heart pounded as she inhaled deeply, the weight of her emotions settling like an anchor. "I deserve more than this," she whispered, her voice trembling but resolute. Every unresolved conversation echoed in her mind, each moment adding fuel to the fire of her self-worth. This wasn't just about Ryan's cold demeanor. It was her turning point, an awakening to her own resilience. The space between them felt electric, charged with unsaid words and hidden fears. How long had she let silence suffocate their love? With each heartbeat, Chloe stepped closer to reclaiming the intimacy they lost. She chose vulnerability over silence, ready to confront the truth lurking beneath Ryan's rigid exterior. Could she break through the wall he'd built? Only time would tell, but she was determined to try. Eventually, this journey taught her something profound. Trevor's betrayal was a harsh lesson in self-trust, a catalyst for her growth. The revenge she envisioned wasn't merely about punishment, it was about regaining her power. Her mission was clear: No woman would endure his deception again. This was her moment, her life, and she was finally taking the reins. The past was painful, but the future, it was wide open.